It's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
Hello and welcome. He's Gary McNamara. I'm Eric Harley. Hey! What do you say we jump into a Friday, Gary? How are you?
I mean, what a day it was yesterday. I'm still not caught up.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just one of those days where there's so much news. Coming up here on the show, Michael Cohen gets it handed to him big time. We'll get to that coming up here in a little bit. The administration and executive privilege. I mean, the whole thing about the Republicans wanting the actual tape of Biden's, deposition with the special counsel.
Right.
They got the transcript, and then they said, well, sorry, you can't get the tape. Well, you already gave up executive privilege publicly for the transcript.
Right. The content is already there.
Right.
It's already out.
And executive privilege doesn't apply to this because it's not about presidential business. It's about the Department of Justice looking for crimes.
Right.
It doesn't even apply. And so, going after, Garland now, for contempt of Congress, they'll win. I believe they'll win this in court.
I think so. Yeah.
Now, when they'll win it, I don't know, but the contempt is about not handing that over. So we will get to that. Catholics and the Kansas City Chiefs and the NFL. We'll get to the whole story of the kicker. The thing I love is where they called him a misogynist, and I'm looking and I go, all he is doing here is talking about traditional Catholic faith and what Catholics believe.
Right.
He didn't say if you're not Catholic, you must believe it.
Right.
It's I swear, I think that has become news because they can't find anything else. They got nothing on Trump, and it's like, all right, so we just got to blow this thing out of proportion. The Kansas City kicker just speaking to a small, traditional conservative Catholic university.
Yeah.
And it just was, it was a Catholic talking to Catholics.
Right.
It was a conservative Catholic talking to a conservative Catholic audience.
Right.
I mean, it's like there's nothing there. And I love where they talk about, they accused him of misogyny because he talked about you're going to be going out to the world, but the greatest thing that you can do is be a mother.
Right.
That's well, if you know anything about Catholicism, having babies is a huge part of it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just like,
right.
It's like, that's
right.
And I'm just sitting there going, God, they're just, they're going crazy.
It's a common belief amongst all of us believers that the best thing you can be is a parent, and sorry, when you break it, the left just loses their ever-loving mind. If you think about the miracle that is motherhood, think about it. I've talked to my buddies about this. Imagine, guys would never be able to handle creating another human.
No.
And within your body for 9 months. We get a hangnail and we're calling in sick. And someone pulls out that, that idea of, look, the best thing you can do is be a mother, which, by the way, I agree. It all goes back to good parenting.
Right. He never said it's a sin to work.
No.
It's funny because I did not. That's a story where I went the other day. That's not really a big story. I'm just not going to go anywhere. And all of a sudden, it blew up yesterday.
Yeah, because the liberals can't have.
Right. So I didn't read it till a couple of hours ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, this is it?
Mm-hmm.
Seriously? This thing's going to die very quickly.
Yeah.
Because when you actually go through the transcript, somebody in The View said, well, he also said he prefers the Latin Mass, and that's the radical. I'm like, that's the damn FBI thing, remember?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
The FBI going, well, if you're somebody who believes in the Latin Mass, and from somebody who, again, grew up in the Catholic Church. I mean, really grew up in the Catholic Church. And I'm talking about Catholic school, Sunday school class, everything else. There was a huge controversy when they really went, to the, to English and the Latin Mass. And it had nothing to do with being a radical, because that's the whole point that the FBI, remember the FBI tried to sell that, and the View said, well, it's the Latin Mass. Shut up.
Well,
these people have no idea about Catholicism, and they're speaking as experts.
That, and it's clear they're still chipping away at that first, your right to religious freedom. They want that gone. They want that gone. They want inside the churches. They want to monitor everything. Remember, in Houston, we want transcripts.
Oh, that was the mayor.
Yeah. And all of this, this is liberals banging on the door of churches saying, no, we want in. And eventually, we want control of your organization so we can dissolve it. The answer is no.
And he hit all the things, about Catholicism, birth control. No. He attacked Biden. His controversial, it wasn't controversial. Catholics, the official Catholic doctrine is against abortion. Biden is promoting and doing the sign of the cross, as he mentioned. When he's talking pro-abortion ideology, and he's saying that's wrong.
Right. If the liberals should be upset, they should be upset at Biden for pretending to be a strong Catholic.
Yeah. So, I mean, I when I read the transcript, I'm like, you got to be kidding me. But I knew it was going to be that. I knew. I think there's just so much bad news. They were trying to jump onto anything. And then the NFL. Well, let's put it this way. If there was a Muslim football player who talked about traditional Islam in a mosque, would the NFL have done this and, put out a statement, and the Kansas City Chiefs put out a statement?
Nope.
And it was, and then they're trying to compare it. I saw the View trying to compare it to Colin Kaepernick. Well, Kaepernick was speaking for all other people. No, Kaepernick was lying about police departments, and Kaepernick was promoting his Marxist socialist ideas.
Yeah.
And the NFL, by going along with it, helped enable the bigotry, the race baiting of Colin Kaepernick.
Right.
That's why do you think the NBA ran away from it after a year? Why do you think the NFL ran away? Well, we're going to get back to, because they knew it was BS. And then they jump on this. Did you see his jersey, though? It's gone through the roof. His jersey sales.
Yeah.
But we've got to start out with this, though.
All right.
Because this is the best ever. You know that we've always talked about the media out there and saying, guys, do a follow-up question. Guys and gals, do a follow-up question.
Right. Stay on it.
Yeah, stay on it. Don't give it. If they're lying, call them out on it.
Yep.
This is beautiful. This will be one of the best things you'll see all week.
Yeah.
To me, it's the audio cut of the week. And then there's some really good audio out there, but this was just great. This is Neil Cavuto talking to the president's economic advisor, Jared Bernstein, yesterday about the president twice. We knew this was going to blow up. The president twice coming out and saying that he inherited 9% inflation.
Yeah.
It's an absolute lie. Listen to Neil Cavuto here. I've never seen him so strong.
Yeah.
I've never seen him this strong. Here we go. All right.
Jared, why does he keep saying that? You're his top you're the head of the Council of Economic Advisors. Do you ever whisper in his ear, Mr. President, just to be technical about it, it wasn't 9% when you assumed office, it was 1.4%. It got as high as 9% in 2022. You brought it down from that, but it was never, ever, ever 9% when you came into office. So why does he keep saying it?
Well, first of all, let me point out that in that very quote you played, the president talked about how concerned he was for households struggling with prices that he consistently
That's not what I asked you. That's not what I asked you.
So
why does he keep misrepresenting this?
He's making the point that the factors that caused inflation to climb to 9% were in place when he took office. I
No,
think
that's
it was
not
by,
what he said. He said it was at 9%. It would eventually get to 9% a little over a year after that. But the fact of the matter is it wasn't 9%. So if I can't trust him quoting data in real time, why should I believe what he's talking about now?
So the annual growth in core inflation in the second quarter of 21 was, in fact, about 9%. And his point about inflation down 60% off its peak is very much the case. So
no,
look,
it wasn't. It was not. It was not at that. So you're almost as bad as he is. Why can't you just say it was high? It got as high as 9%. You'd be accurate in saying that. And we have now brought it down, and we're struggling in around the 3% area. But it's better than it was. But instead, to hang it on his predecessor, that you inherited something that was through the roof when we were in the middle of COVID. It just seems to the American people, whether you're Republican or Democrat, you're lying. Neil. You're just lying.
Well, hold on. I hear you. The president was making the point that I think is unequivocally true. The factors that took inflation to 9% were in place when he took office.
That is not what he said, Jared. And you're a very smart guy with this stuff. You could just whisper. And he's a good friend of yours, obviously, thinks the world of you. Many others do as well. You could have just told him, Chief, I got to tell you, Mr. President, whatever you say, you might even, in fact, call him Joe. That's how close you are. And say, sir, it was not 9%. Stop it with the 9%, because the more you say that, the more people don't believe what you're saying.
Look, I think what the American people care most about is the fact
truth.
that
inflation care about truth, Jared.
There you go.
That's what you do.
Yep.
But he said you're lying.
Yeah. It's a lie.
It's a lie.
It's a lie. We said it. Look, when he doubled down on it, when he came back and doubled down on it, you don't get away with us. You don't get away with it one time. You certainly don't get away with it twice. That's a deliberate lie. And then Karine Jean-Pierre. Well, he inherited and then you heard it here again with Bernstein. Well, the conditions were, that's a lie.
And stop using what Karine Jean-Pierre is doing, Jared. I hear you. Yeah, no, you don't hear me.
I hear you. Yeah, right. Yeah.
I hear you.
We see you. We got you. Shut up. Tell the truth or get out of the room.
Try that with your spouse. Yeah. Lie to them. And then when they call you on it, say, I hear you. Yeah.
I see what you're saying.
I see what you're saying. Yeah, try that one with them. Huh? Yeah. Do that with your spouse.
Right. Like Homer Simpson said, but honey, I thought you would never find out.
That would be better than I hear you.
His excuses.
At least you're admitting you were lying.
Right.
But that was just pure greatness. That was just every time. Stop it. You're lying. Well, what he meant, I don't care what he meant. This is what he said. Why won't and see, he won't say the president lied. He won't say we're lying.
Right.
It's, well, here's what we mean by the lie.
Yeah. And they're just, now it's been a whole week of it.
I know.
It's a whole week of it. The reason, Neil, that he can't say that he can't whisper into his ear, is because Joe Biden's not going to have any of that jack from anyone. It doesn't matter who it is. Jill Biden could whisper that in his ear, and he'd be defiant.
And Bernstein's an idiot.
Yeah.
You saw the thing where he didn't even understand the currency of the United States.
Right. Yeah.
That was him, right?
Was it Bernstein?
Bernstein? Yeah, I think it was.
Yeah. But this is...
Yeah, because he's the head of the Council of Economic Advisors,
And so the entire play here has been to double down, triple down, quadruple down, and now they're just going to keep this going. This is going to be their talking point. Which means if there is a debate, Biden will repeat that on the debate stage, and it's going to be false.
Yeah, it was Bernstein who said it. He had no idea what gives money value.
Yeah, right.
He had no idea.
Yeah, and he sounded completely clueless in that.
He's an idiot.
Played the audio cut, right?
Yeah. He's got no business in anything with the economics of the United States.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
But, that was such a huge lie, and I just That's what the media. That's what I expect out of the media. Now, who knows? Neil Cavuto, for calling him a liar, may not be able to get him back on again. Because when you challenge politicians, look, you and I have been in the business long enough. One of the problems I always had as a individual talk show host is I called people out; they wouldn't come on again. And then producers would say, "Well, you can't get him back on, but you shouldn't challenge him like that." Well, no, I'm not gonna. I'm not here, and you and I both know it. That you got to be careful, because if you get too hard and actually insist that politicians and those representing them tell the truth, they won't come on your show anymore.
I don't care what it sounds like on the air to say, coming up, we have the White House spokesperson.
Yeah.
That doesn't do anything at all. That doesn't deliver anything. That doesn't serve the audience at all if it doesn't serve the truth. Period.
But Cavuto was great there. That was great.
Yeah.
That made my day. Well, a bunch of things made my day yesterday, but that was the number one thing that made my day.
Yeah. Yeah, it was great. So, it really was.
And we got a great show ahead. Oh, man, we got a great show ahead. It's the Friday show, 866-90-RED-EYE.
This report is brought to you by Shell Rotella. With advanced synthetic technology, is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance. When it comes to truck maintenance, sometimes it's the little things that can cause the most trouble, like cabin air filters. When properly serviced, cabin air filters provide a barrier between pollutants and harmful particles outside and your HVAC system. If you don't pay attention to them, however, this small part can turn into big trouble in no time. Breathe easy when you know how often to get your filters replaced. Long-haul drivers should replace their cabin air filters every 50,000 miles, or according to the manufacturer's recommendations. If you operate in dusty environments, consider servicing your cabin air filters more often.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90-RED-EYE.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. It's really incredible. You know, you and I said earlier this week that when this goes down in history, and I believe it will, this moment, this last couple of months with all the lawfare against Trump, this is going to go down in history. I don't know. I really wonder. And I read earlier this week, our colleague, Mark Levin, wrote something on Twitter that you and I talked about, that how does this affect? I mean, because the Supreme Court pays attention to what's going on in the news. And with when you talk about immunity for a president, you look at it, what it's always been is you have immunity from any official act that you do as president, but if you commit a crime, outside of that, or even if you commit a crime, to hide something like obstruction of justice, you can be prosecuted. But I wonder how the Supreme Court is now looking at immunity for a president, because this is before them now, how these judges are looking at it. When you have, as we've seen over the last couple of months, all of these cases start to fold. This is clearly election interference, what's going on. There is no Bragg case. There was no in the Georgia case. There is no, there is no RICO Act violation. They're making up law. And the Supreme Court's, you have judges, I'm sure, looking at this saying, well, wait a minute. Of course the president has immunity from official actions, but now we see that the opposition is just going after a president because they wish to commit election interference. How do you stop that? How do you end that? That's a huge question before the court.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio. from the Uniden America Studios.
It's Running Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Thank you so much for being here this morning. Just reading this here from the Trump trial yesterday, and if you saw, for example, CNN. I mean, everyone knows now. Everyone knows that this is completely bogus. Mm-hmm. But Donald, this from National Review. Donald Trump's defense team on Thursday grilled former Trump attorney Michael Cohen about his history of telling lies and blaming others for his legal troubles. At one point during the cross-examination, played a podcast in which Cohen expressed his desire for Trump to go to prison. Cohen took the stand in a lengthy cross-examination on Thursday. Trump's lawyers peppered him with questions about his criminal history and statements expressing support for Trump getting convicted. The prosecution star witness, good God, star witness, you've got to be kidding me. Oh, God, star witness, black hole witness.
If that's your star witness. Of course, with this trial, of course, he's the star witness, a convicted liar.
Said Cohen previously pleaded guilty to financial crimes and perjury, resulting in his disbarment. His testimony is central to Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg's prosecution of Trump. It's central, but it's horrible here as I'm reading this. The thing that you got out of yesterday, because he goes back here and he starts hitting what happened Wednesday, but yesterday the problem was, as he said, Cohen said everything that was done by Trump was absolutely legal. Mm-hmm. That was really the problem, that everything he did was legal. There was nothing that he did that was illegal whatsoever. It was interesting because it was some of the discussion on CNN where they said, can you read the jury here? They said, nope, but the jury heard, you could hear everyone at that moment, tapping their electronic devices. You could actually hear it in the room. He called it typewriters, but I think he meant, you could hear the movement and the shuffling of the press, the people that were in there in that moment, basically going, this case is just going down the toilet.
Yeah, right.
And I was, again, looking at Jonathan Turley and others out there that were just saying, the judge has got to get this and say this never goes to the jury.
Again, I don't know what instructions you give to the jury. I don't know, unless you're just, as a judge, going to completely ignore the law. That's what you have to do as a judge in this case. In order to get the jury, give this to the jury, you're going to have to completely ignore the law. You can't possibly give them instructions otherwise.
Yeah, I don't know how the judge, it wouldn't go to the jury yet. The defense can bring up, this is the prosecution, mm-hmm. and so if he will not give a direct verdict, then the defense can make their case, which means it would eventually go to the jury. Why the judge will allow that? One of the questions that was even asked yesterday was, do you think that, and this was across the board, whether it was liberal legal analysts, do you think the jury even knows what the crime is here? A month into it, do you think that the jury, if you were talked to a jury member and said, what is the crime here? Could they answer? And almost it was unison from the people I saw yesterday saying, no, we don't think the jury could even tell you what the crime is.
Prosecution hasn't made the case for what the crime is.
And so to have that at this point, a month into it, I've never seen this ever. And that's why I've said I do believe that the moment that we're in now is going to go down in history. The lawfare of attempting to go after a president like this with made-up crimes. And if you look at the two worst cases, it's the Bragg case and it's the Georgia case trying to have, RICO against the president when RICO doesn't even apply. That's the thing. It's so obvious. It's not like you have to search It's so obvious in the Georgia case. There is no RICO case. To have a RICO case, you need a criminal enterprise. A political party and a political campaign is not a criminal enterprise. The mob is a criminal enterprise.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, you could say, you could make the case, the RICO laws were made for the mob, but you could make the case that a combination terrorist drug cartel is a criminal organization. The only reason they exist is to break law. Right. The only reason they exist. The group is not formed for any other reason. You don't apply RICO to a political campaign. If somebody in a political campaign breaks the law, you go after them and charge them as individuals.
Right.
But if somebody in a campaign breaks the law, it doesn't mean that RICO applies, and so you can apply it to anybody, in that organization.
Yeah, right.
And so that's the problem there. And in this one, they can't even tell you what the crime is.
Yeah, and again, I don't know where it goes. Because you have either the judge denies the defense here if they ask him for a direct verdict. And we just go off and, keep going down this delusional road that Alvin Bragg started on. And I guess you, at that point, hope to get an expedited appeal. Or the judge says, nope, prosecution hasn't made their case. I can't give the jury instructions because you can't give me which law was broken. Yeah. You haven't made your case. I don't know if Merchan is going to do that. We'll see.
Let's go to, this is CNN from yesterday on the case. Here we go.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever seen a star cooperating witness get his knees chopped out quite as clearly and dramatically as what just happened with Michael Cohen. I've certainly seen very effective cross-examinations of cooperating witnesses. I've seen aspects of their story cut into and called into question, but this goes to the heart of the allegation here, that phone call on October 24th, and it looks to the jury and to Anderson Cooper and Kara Scannell and Judge George Grasso, who are all in the courthouse, that was a devastating moment.
Yeah.
It really is. I mean, you shake your head, but I think it's important to understand the importance of this in history. And again, I go back to the Supreme Court looking at immunity right now. What immunity does a president have?
Yeah, right.
And have the Democrats actually hurt their own case? Because you're going to have the Supreme, you've got the judges, as we mentioned earlier. Judges are looking at this saying, okay, what immunity should a president have? Well, of course, a president should have immunity, for official acts that they do.
Right.
And so, or as you look at the precedent from, I think it was 81, I don't know the case, but I know the precedent was, I believe, 81, which is the president has official acts and a wide perimeter of official acts. All right?
Yeah, right.
Well, you look at this and you say, well, this is what Trump did here was not an official act. No, but it wasn't illegal. And what you have is this isn't even going after the president, Trump, for breaking the law. It's making up law. And so I'm sure the Supreme Court's looking and saying, well, how do we look at something like this? Because this really has never happened, where you have prosecutors making up crimes that are obviously making up crimes in order to have election interference. Now, it's backfired on them big time, completely backfired on them, but it doesn't take the case, it doesn't take away from the fact that financially, you look at it, one of the problems is, do they have money for a ground game? By the way, I thank you. I got a couple of people that are involved in politics in different states that say, yeah, our ground game isn't there yet. Because we had stated this yesterday. That's one of the concerns right now of the Trump campaign is, and this was after the rally last week, that, hey, and this came from Republicans, rallies don't win elections, ground games do. Ground game does. With so much of the money, not from the RNC, but money to Trump going for his legal fees, that's money that can't be spent on a campaign. That's where the damage comes in. Supreme Court's looking at that. These judges are looking. I don't know if they can come up with a solution to it, because I don't think they're going to come back and say, Trump has said, well, I need, you need full immunity for everything. Well, he has a point here, because if he had full immunity, these bogus cases would have never been brought.
Yeah,
and Democrats are looking for a loophole to destroy the Republican presidential campaign by making up crimes against Trump.
Yeah.
Well, what do you do? By the way, I don't know what the answer is. I can tell you what the problem is and why Trump is saying that.
Mm-hmm.
And the president doesn't agree that a president has immunity from any crime that they commit.
Mm-hmm.
But in these cases, he didn't commit a crime.
Right.
And so they're coming after him anyway to destroy him. If he had immunity from any crime, none of this would have happened.
Right.
Sorry, you can't prosecute him.
Right.
He has immunity for this.
Right.
So you'd never get to this particular point. I don't think the Supreme Court's going to do that, but I think they're thinking about it, because Democrats will take any type of unconstitutional way, because to me it's unconstitutional for a prosecutor and a judge to let a court case go where they can't identify the damn crime.
Mm-hmm.
When you sit there in the law and you look at RICO for the Georgia case, it's got to be a criminal enterprise. That should be thrown out. Why? His campaign wasn't a criminal enterprise. Criminal enterprise is an enterprise that's only dedicated to breaking the law. That wasn't the case with any campaign, be it Democrat or Republican, even if law breaking is done inside of it.
Right. Yeah, I think ultimately here, this case is going to, it's either going to implode now even further to the point of completely disintegrating, with the judge just saying, sorry, the prosecution hasn't made its case, or it's going to make its way to appeals. The question is, if this goes on, and if there's a verdict here and they have to go to appeal, I don't know how long that's going to take. I don't know that anybody does. You would definitely want to expedite that process, though.
Odds are it wouldn't happen. Odds it would take years if they convicted him.
Typically it does.
And that's the problem. So Trump actually has a point when he says a president should have immunity from anything. This is my evidence.
Mm-hmm.
And he's not wrong.
Right. That you just can't come after, because otherwise, politically, over and over again, this is going to happen.
Mm-hmm. 866-90 Red Eye.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. All right, we'll get to more of the liberal media coverage of Michael Cohen. I think it's so bad that everybody now knows. Everybody knows this case is bogus, so we will get to that. Wow, the hearing yesterday that got pretty wild. To hold Merrick Garland in contempt of Congress.
Mm-hmm.
The Justice Department doesn't have a case here, and neither does the president calling executive privilege on that. Because they gave they waived it on the transcript. There's 2 points here. They waived executive privilege on the transcript.
Any items you'd be concerned about are already out.
Right. So now they want the audio, video, whatever exists. That's what they're asking for.
Yeah, right.
Well, you already gave them the transcript.
Right.
If the transcript isn't under executive privilege and it's the exact same thing, except you get to see a picture or the picture and sound of the president being interviewed, then that doesn't have executive privilege either.
Or my question, was something or some things left out of the transcript?
That's the point that they're bringing up, but that doesn't legally it doesn't matter. Legally, the legal point I'm bringing up.
Yeah, no, politically,
Right,
anything
right.
damaging that's not in the transcript. I mean, there's
Right.
a reason they don't want this out, that they only
yeah.
release the transcript,
Yeah.
and then all of a sudden he's going to throw the gauntlet of executive privilege down.
The two legal points, they've already, like I said, waived executive privilege. And the second point we'll tell you coming up next.
Top of the Hour News is brought to you by House Products. Visit houseproducts.com.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America and around the planet, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome to the show. Thank you so much for being here. It's a Friday morning. We made it. Man, so much going on. Talking about the Republicans yesterday in the committee finding Merrick Garland in contempt of Congress. And, of course, he is for this. There's no reason. And just a little background here. We're talking about they want the recording of Biden being interviewed by Special Counsel Hur.
Mm-hmm.
They got the transcript. In fact, the administration said they waived waived their executive privilege and said you can have the transcript. They said, fine, we want the recording too. And they said, no, you can't get it. That's privileged. Well, that's ridiculous. You can't make that. You cannot make that legal point. And that's number one. Number two, you can't make the point even if they had claimed privilege, because this isn't White House business. This is the Department of Justice investigating the president for crimes.
Right.
So it doesn't fall under executive privilege at all. And since it's been released, one of the reasons that Republicans want it and want all the evidence is because the special counsel said, yeah, he committed these crimes, but he's basically a feeble old man.
Right.
And so you cannot make the case that executive privilege holds here, and Congress, which has oversight authority, says it's political. Well, of course it's political. Everything is political. You don't get executive privilege because with the excuse, well, it'll be used for political reasons. Well, it could be used for political reasons if it comes back and he is completely and totally coherent. Oh, wait a minute. That would cause problems because then it would be an indictment of her. H-U-R.
Yes, not H-E-R is
right. I'm not using pronouns.
We're not talking Hillary now.
And
different indictment.
And so you cannot make and I'm amazed that Garland's up there defending this because you can't. And the reason you had the insanity in Congress yesterday is because the Democrats know they can't defend it. The subpoena for the recording is totally in line with the law.
Yep.
Separation of powers. It's got nothing to do with executive privilege. They're making stuff up. Executive privilege goes, and the whole thing, the executive privilege, we don't want this to be political, and we want to ensure that the Justice Department is blah, blah, blah. Horse hockey, as Colonel Potter would say on MASH.
Yeah, it's you've already waived that executive privilege to begin with.
You waived it, and it doesn't exist.
Yeah. So that idea, but it just builds the curiosity as to why.
Oh, yeah.
Why in the world now would you try and throw this down? What is it that the recording is going to divulge that a transcript did not?
Or the decision, if the president comes across as a liar, well, that's very important because you have the president or the former president that the Department of Justice is going at for classified records, and you have the president who they're not going after. And they didn't say he didn't commit crimes. They said he's a feeble old man, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he's president of the damn United States. What do you mean he's a feeble old man? Congress has every right. Because if you don't have the cognitive abilities to stand trial, because you think about it, when don't you stand trial in our system? When you're viewed as legally insane, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you're sane.
When you're found not competent.
Yeah, when you're found not competent, which would be, the insanity defense.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you're legally incompetent, should you be president of the United States? Totally legit things for Congress to look at.
Yeah.
Completely.
Yeah.
And if the president comes off as a cognitive impaired person, that also is something that, if that's true, well, and because that's what Hur said, well, then the American people need to see that.
Well, and the question would be, how bad is it? Because Hur did damage by going down that road. But was Hur soft selling it? Because inflection and tone and a pause, all of that, these are things that likely wouldn't make the transcript.
Exactly.
And that's what you're looking for. That's what you're looking to hear or see. Moments that really stand out where he's either lost, he's clearly lying. The people have a right to see that. Executive privilege doesn't apply here, and even if it did, it's already been waived. Sorry.
Yeah.
You can't undo that.
And so that's the 1-2 slam.
Yeah.
Executive privilege does not apply to it, but even if it did, they waived it.
Yep. It's already done. It's
Right.
already over, and this is why the Democrats were scrambling. This is all the chaos that you saw yesterday. They are scrambling. They're desperate because this has the potential of doing a ton of political damage. And by the way, it's okay that it does.
Yeah, well, you and I've always laughed when people use the politics word. Mm-hmm. Well, it's all politics.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, they are politicians,
Right.
but just because it's politics doesn't mean that we shouldn't know about it.
Right. No, the American people need to know about it. They need to see the truth.
Well, if you see the truth about the president, then it could be negative, and that's politics.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, it could be positive for him, too. That's also politics that could work against the Republicans. I don't know. All I know is what I've been told, and I've seen the transcript. And I've been told by her that this guy who's president of the United States is a feeble old man, and that's why they won't prosecute him.
Yeah.
And what you're saying is, legally, your legal department, the White House legal department, has said, well, no, there is no executive privilege for the transcript. You get that. But for the actual recording of the interview, that's under executive privilege. It's the same thing.
It's the same thing.
It's the same interview.
Right.
It's the content It's the content and the context of that content and how it was done, because it's the Department of Justice in a criminal investigation against the president. That's what it was.
Mm-hmm.
Special counsel looking at it. And so it doesn't even apply to begin with, because it isn't the normal activities, that this isn't normal business in the White House. This is actually outside the White House. This is the Department of Justice investigating the president. The president doesn't get to call executive privilege, but even if he did get to call executive privilege on it, he's waived it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's over.
Yeah. He waived it with the transcript. Well, yeah, but the recording is the transcript.
Mm-hmm.
The transcript is the recording. Well, then it's an unnecessary redundancy. That's not what you're saying.
If it's a
right.
redundancy, there's no issue then with releasing it.
Right. What you're saying is the president, this is the absurd part, the president saying executive privilege applies here because this was a Justice Department investigation and the integrity of it must be protected. How is the integrity of an investigation perverted by seeing the actual interview and deposition of the president after the decision was made by the Department of Justice not to prosecute? The case is over. They don't have a case here.
No, they don't.
And that's why the Democrats went crazy yesterday.
Well, and they're very
afraid.
They're very afraid of what this might divulge. It's clearly the Biden administration and Biden campaign are both afraid of what this is going to do.
By the way, has any Republican not been to the courthouse for Trump? I mean,
yeah, I don't even. It's. I think Liz Cheney, but then But we did hear from her.
I know I changed topics, but that just popped into my mind. So yeah, that's the trouble that the Democrats have here. Is it isn't good, because you sit there and look at it and you go, well, they got the transcript, they should be able to get it, and the American public is really interested in the fact of why. It's a great question. Democrats may not care, but independents do, and many others do. Republicans care that you're prosecuting one guy, and that you can actually, a lot of that you can apply the Presidential Records Act to. There's no Presidential Records Act for Biden at all. He's had these things for decades. He had no authority to have any of these things for decades, and he had them, which is why we have said you can make a solid case that Biden committed a much worse crime than Trump.
Yeah. Right.
And so if you're prosecuting one that is of great public interest, to understand why Hur didn't say that Biden didn't commit crimes, said basically he's a feeble old man. Well, the public should see if he is a feeble old man.
Yeah.
If that's the reason, what's the argument against our argument? What is the argument? To protect the integrity of the Department of Justice investigation? You've already given them the transcript. That's like saying that because we've seen it on every single crime program out there.
Mm-hmm.
And you see, okay, there's the police, and there's the police bringing the witness, bringing the suspect in, and and questioning them.
Yeah, right.
Does doing that after a case is over, whether the suspect is found not guilty or guilty, does that impede the integrity of the law enforcement organization that did that interview or deposition?
Right.
No. They don't have a case.
Mm-hmm.
866-90 Red Eye.
Brought to you by FPPF, Fuel Power Max.
Surviving and thriving as an owner-operator has just as much to do with managing costs as it does with generating revenue. Understanding basic principles of operating costs can save you thousands of dollars a year. Costs are not the same each month. If 9,600 miles are driven one month and 10,000 miles the next, two different sets of costs apply for each month. For example, if your tractor payment is $1,850 per month and you drive 9,600 miles in the month, your tractor payment is costing you 19.3 cents per mile. Drive 10,000 miles, though, and that same payment will cost you 18.5 cents per mile. This is one of your major fixed costs while paying off a truck loan. The difference in this example is only a fraction of a cent, which may seem like small change, but it ultimately amounts to $960 more annually on the bottom line. Because though fixed costs do not go down over time, you can reduce your cost per mile with more paid miles. Owner-Operator Business 101 is provided by Overdrive's Partners in Business program. Go to overdriveonline.com to the Partners in Business section of the website for more details on this and many other topics. Brought to you by Shell Rotella, with advanced synthetic technology is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. I want to play here, Eric. I've got Garland here making the exact point that we just said, where he talks about the fact that he can't release the recording of Biden being interviewed by the special counsel because it would affect their job of investigating without political influence. And our point is, no, it's done. You've closed the case. There were things you wouldn't give to Congress as you were investigating.
Mm-hmm.
It's over. That doesn't apply. Here he is. He's, in his own words, exactly what we said.
The Justice Department is a fundamental institution of our democracy. People depend on us to ensure that our investigations and our prosecutions are conducted according to the facts and the law and without political influence. We have gone to extraordinary lengths to ensure that the committees get responses to their legitimate requests. But this is not one. To the contrary, this is one that would harm our ability in the future to successfully pursue sensitive investigations.
He's lying.
It's false.
Absolutely false.
Then why was the transcript released?
Right. Can't make the case if you release a transcript. In fact, people depend on us to ensure that our investigations and our prosecutions are conducted according to the facts and law. Well, that's the entire point.
Mm-hmm.
Your Justice Department is going after one presidential candidate, and the incumbent, who you have through your special counsel, through the Department of Justice, has said, you didn't say he didn't break laws. You simply said he doesn't have the cognitive ability, is a nice old, basically a senile man, is what they're trying to say he is. So they're not going to prosecute it. If you're making that case, the public needs to know whether that's true based on the recording of the interview.
We said that from the beginning, by the way, when the report came out from her. We said the public needs to know more about this.
Yeah.
They deserve to know the entire truth about this. And what Merrick Garland is trying to tell you is that, yeah, well, we didn't do any harm by releasing the transcript, but releasing the full interview recording would be detrimental. Well, you can't have it both ways. What you're saying then is either it was detrimental to release the transcript, and it would be, if you were refusing both, that's one thing, or you're just trying to have it both ways here, where you say, well, we'll release this and not the recording. The recording shows something. This is what we said from the beginning. Because you can't account for in a transcript, in any transcript, you can't account for inflection, pauses, things like that.
when he said people depend on us to ensure that our investigations and our prosecutions are conducted according to the facts and law. Well, how do we know that? By your word or by transparency of the evidence that was presented in a case that's now closed?
Right.
He's full of manure, is what the Attorney General is.
Well, clearly this was, and I don't know what influence there was from the Attorney General over her when that report was being put together. But now it makes me suspect that, of course, they had to soft sell it in Hur's report. I have to wonder about the integrity of the report if they don't want to release the actual recording.
We have a line open. 1-866-90-RED-EYE. Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Just looking at the Wall Street Journal editorial. Biden makes a bogus executive privilege claim. The president already waived his claim on the special counsel interview. Mr. Biden sat for an interview over 2 days with the special counsel about his mishandling of classified documents. A pair of House committees sought the transcript and audio recordings of the interview, and the White House turned over the transcript. But on Thursday, the president asserted executive privilege over the audio tapes. Because of the president's long-standing commitment to protecting the integrity, effectiveness, and independence of the Department of Justice and its law enforcement investigations, he has decided to assert executive privilege over the recordings. That's a quote, wrote the counsel to the president in a letter to the chairman of the House Oversight Committee. The privilege claim is great. The privilege claim is bogus on two grounds. I say great because it mirrors exactly what we said. First, the president waives a privilege. Once a president waives a privilege right, it can't be reclaimed. Biden conceded that the interview wasn't privileged, and there's no legal basis to say the recording is different from a transcript. Even if Mr. Biden had first claimed privilege over the interview, that would not have passed legal muster because the interview subject did not concern his presidential duties or White House deliberations. It concerned his handling of documents while in the Senate, as vice president, and as a private citizen. Mr. Siskel's claim, and the Attorney General's also, that the goal is to protect the Justice Department's law enforcement investigations, that also doesn't work. Such a claim of law enforcement privilege typically attends to a continuing investigation. But Mr. Hur's work is complete. He filed his report, closed up shop. Jeez. Siskel complains in his letter that the transcript should be sufficient. You don't get to make that call. And the absence of a legitimate need for the audio recordings lays bare your likely goal to chop them up, distort them, and use them for partisan political purposes. Well, no doubt partisanship is at play, as it was for Democrats on Capitol Hill against Mr. Trump.
Yeah.
But Republicans want the audio to judge the tenor and credibility of Mr. Biden's responses and Mr. Hur's conclusion that the president's faulty memory was cause not to bring an indictment in the case. The White House claim of privilege over the recordings isn't intended to protect executive power. It's intended to avoid presidential embarrassment. That's a political goal, not a legitimate legal justification. If Mr. Trump had tried this, he would have been denounced far and wide. Mr. Biden deserves the same treatment.
This is, it's a pretty simple equation here. It's the reason you want the recording is to determine whether or not Hur's assessment here of truth-telling or anything else was accurate. The American people have a right to see that. They have a right, through their representatives, to determine whether or not they believe the president was telling the truth during those interviews. Pauses, inflection, a number of things matter. Things that you're not going to get from any transcript. We said it at the beginning of all this. I suspected that Hur ran into a problem with who he owed that report to, which is A.G. Garland. And is it the case that A.G. Garland basically made Hur soft walk the whole thing? Was there a conversation as to, look, you can come in and you can kind of say he was a feeble old man, but tone it down? All of these questions, by the way, are valid questions in the era of lawfare.
Mm-hmm.
All of them.
Yep.
So this whole idea of, well, how dare you, that's the attorney general. Yeah, no, it's because it's this particular attorney general that I actually go down that road and consider that. The American people deserve to see it. And you don't get to, after the fact, come in and waive and decide you're going to enact executive privilege after waiving it. Doesn't work that way. That's why the Democrats were scrambling yesterday. This is why you heard from Garland. This is why Garland had to jump out in front of it. You're not going to win it. Ultimately, you are not going to win this. There's no way. I don't know how long it takes, but there's no way you get to say, we waive executive privilege. The president actually conceding executive privilege doesn't apply. And then you decide you're going to use executive privilege down the road. No, doesn't work that way.
Yeah, that's the thing. If you look at it, what's the argument? Is there an argument that the public would accept, and the public doesn't? And this is one of the things that I mentioned. For example, the crime shows out there.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Tell me an investigation, how many investigations have been done, murder suspects, whatever, and these TV shows go through, and what becomes, after the case is over, what do you get? You get everything from the case.
Mm-hmm.
And so we've seen it. We've seen the crime shows.
Right.
The suspect comes in. The suspect is questioned. You hear, you get to see the suspect being, questioned afterwards. These crime shows go fully through everything after a case is done.
Right.
The case is done.
Right.
Hur is done.
Right. Well, and there's a reason that, if available, those crime shows will also show the interview in the interview room. Body language is everything. Inflection is everything.
Right.
And so you want that recording. You want everything. The American people, this is a public servant. The American people have the right to it. Executive privilege doesn't apply, and even if it did, it's been waived. So there is no more debate.
Yeah, I mean, because what it is well, if the Justice Department would sit there and say anything Trump says, any interview, whatever, is fully and always should not be presented because it would be viewed as political.
Right.
Because that's their argument is if
Right.
you release this, it could be used against the president.
Right.
You don't know that.
Right.
I don't know that. What do you mean it could be used against the president in a negative way? I don't know. It could be used against him in a positive way.
Well,
I don't know what he said, so I don't know.
And either way, the truth is the truth.
Right.
However it comes out and lands isn't on me for seeking the truth. Well, if you see it, it might change your mind about, yeah, it might. You're right. And that's okay. You may not like it if you're a defender of the person may not like it. But that's the way the truth works. it sheds light on things. And you don't have to see it. You can decide to blind your own eyes, but the American people have every right to see it. That recording has to be released.
Yeah, this isn't rocket science here.
No.
They can't pull it off. I'm amazed that Garland actually came out to defend it, because
that was a big tell for me. Yeah,
that was, to me. Were they trying to add extra credibility by bringing him out because they knew if they just put out the statement, no, we're claiming executive privilege?
Right. No, because it happened. You know, my alerts were going off. You know, the executive privilege thing blew up my phone on all the media alerts, and then it was shortly after that Garland is going to speak, and I thought they're scrambling. Look how quickly that happened. Garland doesn't go to the podium every day. And the fact that he felt he needed, or somebody felt he needed to jump in front of this, is very clear as to what's going on. They're scrambling for a reason. It goes back to the original question and curiosity. Well, why wouldn't they want the recordings released? The transcripts are already out there.
Right.
Hur's report is already done. The case is already closed. Why wouldn't they want them out there?
Now, Garland is right. If the Republicans get it, it could look bad for the Department of Justice. There's that possibility.
Which goes to my theory of, or question, did the Department of Justice encourage her at any point to revise the report, to soften anything in the report? Hur's assessment, was it off at all? Was that done? And it could have been something, an initiative that was strictly decided by and carried out from her, and nobody else was involved. Tell me why everybody, all hands on deck immediately in order to get in front of this thing.
Well,
that reeks of something pretty big.
Since I don't know, it could make her look bad.
Mm-hmm.
It could make her look great.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. But to sit there and say we can't release this because it might be used for political purposes that would hurt the Department of Justice in future investigations, yeah, it might.
It might, sure.
I think it might taint your credibility, but that would be based on the credibility, based on the evidence. And if it does taint your credibility because the public views it as bogus, that's what transparency is about.
If your actions compromise the integrity of future investigations, that's on you. That's not on me for wanting the truth.
And if Republicans exaggerate it or they cut it up, that's very easy to throw right back in their face.
Oh, yeah. No,
that excuse doesn't work either. Well, they could manipulate it, or I can just see, and they'll use AI or, whatever dumb excuse.
The edit still wouldn't be as bad as the video from the president the other day.
I go back to this again. Are they trying to why are they that incompetent that they made the edits so bad that everybody would question it and say, my God, he can't even talk for a few seconds without these obvious edits? But with the technology we have today, why did the Democrats do that? Why did they allow that kind of product to come out, which showed obviously it was edited, that the president, because what you get out of this is seeing the president is he can't even do something for 20 seconds.
Right.
So
a very short statement.
So my goal is, do they believe, okay, he actually can do it for 20 seconds. We believe he can answer a question for a minute, especially if he's allowed to use a teleprompter and he gets the questions in advance. So let's set up the Republicans here. By the way, see, when you have a lack of transparency, you see how conspiracy theories abound?
Yeah, right.
But that's not on me, and it's not on you. When you said, look, I need to know whether the report Hur put out that the Department of Justice, didn't change it or didn't. Now, and you said, or it will show that it was fully his report. But
Right.
when you don't know and they give a horrible excuse that doesn't pass legal muster, then any type of scenario that comes to your mind is legitimate. That's why transparency in government is important, and Merrick Garland and the president doesn't want transparency on this.
Well, it was the first thing we said when I was suspicious of the report itself. When I was asking questions about it, I said, "Okay, the transcript will tell a lot about it, but we need to know how this entire thing went down." And one way to do that is to look at the interviews to see the actual or hear the actual recordings.
866-90-RED-EYE.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90-RED-EYE on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. A new poll out. Who do Republicans want for vice president? We'll get to that coming up, following the top of the hour.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, the Kansas City Chiefs kicker.
Yeah. How dare he say you should get married and start a family? Wow. Such hatred. Such hatred. But anti-Semitism is not. I'm just going by their playbook. You bigot. I'm sorry, you're talking to the anti-Semitic? No. The guy's saying you should start a family. Wow.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America and around the planet, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Thank you for being here. Made it to a Friday.
We did. That's awesome.
Certainly did.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Here
wow.
we are.
I can watch some sports this weekend. I can watch golf.
All right.
It's a PGA championship.
Hmm.
I just realized it was on a couple of minutes ago. See, things are so crazy. Even the sporting events. I watch the majors because the PGA Championship's a major.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really about all the golf I watch. It's really the only sports.
Right.
I was talking about all my buddies that are football fans. What do you think about the schedule? Like, I don't care. They play teams. They're going to play one of the 32 teams.
I don't even care about my own schedule, so why would I care about theirs?
One of the 31 teams. So what do you think about that long stretch when they have? I don't care. I just play the game. And I was telling one friend of mine, I was just said, I've just really lost interest in most sports now. I just don't care. Mm-hmm. Because this was a discussion on all the. And we had talked about this yesterday. All so much of the NFL now going on premium channels where you have to pay, and there's a account going on right now. You see it on social media that if you wish to have access to watch all NFL games, how much will it cost you this year? $1,600. That's on TV, not going to any games. That just it there. Mm-hmm. And I've got friends and acquaintances that have season tickets, and especially in Buffalo, and the personal seat licenses and everything else coming up, and it's just like, nah, the return on the investment isn't there. And then so it's like, yeah, guys, I'm really stuck with golf Oh, and I was telling him, I said, really, the most sports I watched last year was my great-nephew streaming playing basketball and Caitlin Clark shooting 50-foot three-pointers.
Yeah.
That got my attention. It's like,
Right.
all right, you start shooting three-pointers from 40 to 50 feet and making them, you got my attention.
Yeah.
And that was really it, most sports. I was watching something streaming yesterday, and there's some big lacrosse championship coming up. And it was like on every 5 minutes. I was watching streaming programs. I think it was on Hulu.
I'm sorry, I fell asleep after you said lacrosse.
Yeah,
What?
exactly. It was like, and don't miss the exciting lacrosse. And it was like a 60-second commercial. And 60-second commercials are long, but every break they were playing it.
Yeah.
And it was like, it's lacrosse.
Yeah. And I don't need the lacrosse emails, by the way. If you're a fan of lacrosse, okay. I'm not. End of story. To each his own. Enjoy your lacrosse.
Yes, exactly. And if you are a lacrosse player, speaking at a convention to all lacrosse players, we don't believe that it should become national news when you talk the inner workings and the ideology of lacrosse playing. We'll get to that coming up here in a little bit. That's the Kansas City Kicker. But I wanted to just throw this out because we were talking about, by the way, I have nothing against lacrosse. In fact, when I lived in Geneva, New York, they used to have, Hobart College. Had a great, like Division III or something. I forgot what they were. They were like national champions. And I did go to a few lacrosse games. It was actually quite exciting. We're just having fun. But
I'm sorry, I fell asleep again. What?
Well, I was talking European football.
Oh, okay.
Have any interest in that?
No.
What about pickleball?
No. I don't even know what it is.
Now
so.
that I'm at that age, I'm getting invitations to play pickleball.
Yeah, no.
Hey, dude, you want to play pickleball? I go, I
No.
can't. What do you mean? It's
No.
for old people.
No.
No, you got to go back and forth. My ankle can't handle it. And it can't. My ankle can't.
I'm allergic to pickles and balls, and I'm not playing either. That's not going to happen. Sorry. No. Sorry. It's a genetic thing. I just sorry.
Like it's the most popular, and I understand because it's mini tennis.
Yeah,
and it's good exercise, and if people like it. I mean, I used to be a very good backyard badminton player.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was great at lawn darts. About 3 fingers ago?
No, we had badminton and lawn darts.
Yeah.
That's what we played.
Now, I didn't use the lawn darts as they were intended because as soon as I opened the package of lawn darts, I thought, oh, this is going to be fun.
I think the first manufacturer of lawn darts was called Jarts.
Yeah, I think you're right. I know one of the popular ones. I remember Jarts. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then it's like 10 years after, it's like, well, we put warning labels on them now.
Well, and
because they are flying projectiles with metal points at the end, and people have been severely injured.
And because of one not so bright young individual who may or may not be a part of this program, one of the warnings that comes with them or came with them eventually became, do not load these into a potato gun and decide to point them at other things. Please do not load these into a potato gun because that would be wrong. Probably. Yeah. Yeah, there were a lot of toys that we had that were really great, and you just can't use them anymore. You know, a guy uses one M80 to blow up a toilet. No more fun. No more fun. By the way, the toilet was no longer in use, to be clear.
You've great memories, though. Just memories of Uncle George coming over to our house and just saying, let's play badminton and jarts. Mm. It was like, all right.
Yeah.
I mean,
right.
We had, and the neighborhood kids, everybody come over, especially the badminton.
Yeah.
Because it was on grass. So you could dive, you could dive for the shuttlecock.
Mm-hmm.
And it was, we had fun. We had fun. My late Uncle George died years ago, but we had fun with him. But, want to get back to this here just very quickly because I saw this editorial or this op-ed piece in the New York Post. Written by James Bovard. Joe Biden claims he has executive privilege against anyone finding out just how addled he is. The Biden White House is proclaiming a new prerogative for presidents. They may suppress any evidence of their unfitness for office. That's true. The battle over, because they bring up a great point. We brought it up a little bit, but we didn't emphasize it as much as this article does. The battle over 5 hours of audio tapes could settle President Biden's fate or pave the way for perpetual presidential secrecy in coming years. In August of 2022, Biden's FBI launched a massive, heavily publicized raid on Trump's Mar-a-Lago headquarters to seize classified documents that the former president allegedly illegally possessed. After classified documents were also discovered in several of President Biden's homes and offices, the Attorney General appointed Special Counsel Robert Hur to investigate. Hur interviewed Biden last October and released a report in January stating that the president had knowingly violated federal law. But Hur recommended no prosecution because jurors would see Biden as an elderly man with a poor memory. The White House vehemently attacked Hur for that statement, yet refused to disclose the audio files that could settle the controversy. So think about this. This is the Democratic Justice Department disagreeing with the White House.
Yeah.
They disagree. They say, no, it's wrong. Congress can legitimately say, even if it's the opposition, the Department of Justice says he committed federal crimes, but he doesn't have the cognitive ability to stand trial. And the White House is saying, that's absolutely false.
Yeah.
And Congress is saying, then we wish to hear that tape because remember, the special counsel said the president violated the law.
Right.
And the only reason we're not prosecuting is because his mental capacity is so eroded that the jury would feel sympathy for him. Now, that's ridiculous because that's not a legal standard. I have no idea.
You don't get to project that on a jury that hasn't even been seated yet.
So the Department of Justice and the president completely disagree. There's this controversy. Is that true from Hur? And the controversy comes from the White House. Hur says this guy can't stand trial. His cognitive abilities are shot.
Yeah.
White House says that isn't true. Well, there's a huge question in there that only one thing can solve, and that is transparency. From the administration that said we will be transparent on everything. So how are the Republicans at fault? Any Democrat, can you come up with something for that? How are the Republicans at fault for saying, my God, the Department of Justice says this guy committed crimes, but he doesn't have the cognitive ability to stand trial. The White House saying that's completely false. Well, we need to get to the bottom of this.
Yep.
The case is over. It's been complete. Yep. You've given us a transcript. We want the audio recording.
Right.
No, can't give it to you because executive privilege because you may use it for politics. Oh, that's a new definition. So the White House vehemently attacked Hur for that statement, yet refused to disclose the audio files that could settle the controversy. 3 months later, the official White House spokesperson for oversight and obstruction, Ian Sams, boasted that Biden never asserted executive privilege during the Hur investigation because he was transparent and had nothing to hide.
Then he should have nothing to hide here.
Well, except for his mumbling.
Yeah.
Last month, the Department of Justice claimed that the disclosing those audio tapes would clearly be an unwarranted invasion of personal privacy.
Mm-hmm.
But Biden was not conscripted into the presidency, and no one forced him to illegally retain classified documents scattered over sites in multiple states. And this got nothing to do with personal invasion, unwarranted invasion of personal privacy. These guys are so full of manure. I wish I could say the word. You know, sometimes the actual word gets the point across better.
Yeah.
The actual more
You
descriptive
mean the word garbage?
No.
No.
Congressional Republicans threatened to hold Attorney General Merrick Garland in contempt for refusing to disclose the audio tapes. The White House on Thursday formally invoked executive privilege.
By the way, you can say the word once.
That is true. Right. Biden is playing a get-out-of-democracy free card. Bad motives by Republicans justify the cover-up, the White House counsel claims. He said that the GOP had no legitimate need for the audio recordings, as if everyone is obliged to take the White House's word that Biden is the smartest man in Washington. Siskel asserted, this is the counsel to the president, that if Republicans received the audio files, they would chop them up, distort them, and use them for partisan political purposes and manipulate them for potential political gain, and that's inappropriate. Chopped? Will Biden's brain trust propose revising the First Amendment to prohibit any editing of politicians' statements? Does Siskel believe that the Biden's reelection campaign deserves veto power over any outtake from the president? The controversy is exposing the self-worship in this administration when a reporter asked Garland on Thursday morning why he asked Biden to declare executive privilege. Garland pompously responded, "The Justice Department is a fundamental institution of our democracy. I will protect this building and its people." Did Garland forget that his oath of office touted the Constitution, not 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue? For the White House, the issue is not whether Biden is capable of fulfilling the heavy duties of his job. Instead, the issue is that the American people are unfit to judge the president's verbal pratfalls and incoherence. Instead of a bizarre executive claim, the White House should have invoked the Americans with Disabilities Act. And should have threatened to sue any voter for illegal prejudice against the mentally handicapped. Wow.
Yeah.
So there you go. It's just, again, it's horrible. Every Democrat knows you can't defend this. Every single Democrat knows it. But remember, the controversy was created by all Democrats.
Oh, yeah. No,
They created the controversy.
Right.
It's Democrats that disagree. Republicans are saying, we don't know.
Right.
But we need to investigate because the White House is saying what Hur put on in his report was completely inaccurate.
Right.
And Hur is saying it was accurate.
Right.
Well, which is it?
Got to be one or the other.
Is the president not fit to be president? Or is he? Because if a president isn't fit to stand trial, is he fit to be president of the United States? I would assume the majority of Americans would say absolutely not.
Right.
866-90-RED-EYE.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90-RED-EYE.
It's Friday Night Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Well, the left wants to cancel the Kansas City field goal kicker. Not for missing a field goal, though.
Wow. Yeah,
Normally, that's where they where they get in trouble.
right. Yeah.
You miss a field goal, you're cut. And
Right.
believe me, being a Bills fan, I understand missed field goals.
Yeah. Right.
So but we'll
Especially
get
ones that are wide right. Yeah.
yes,
Mm-hmm.
yes,
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. Was last year's? I haven't seen it. I know they missed the field goal. I forgot if it would have tied Kansas City or beat Kansas City. I think that one went actually left.
Mm.
I think. I'm not.
Yeah.
Sure.
I got to change it up.
I didn't see any of it, so I don't. and luckily this year I won't see most of the games because apparently people think they're good, so they play a lot of late games and primetime games. I'm sleeping.
Yeah.
Someday when I retire,
Mm-hmm.
should I retire in order to watch the NFL? You think?
Sure. Yeah. I'm sure you'll get a lot of satisfaction out of that. Watching football. Yeah. Quitting this job to watch football.
I'm just going to sit and watch football and bet because I can bet online. Can you bet online from Texas? I don't even know. I know in New York.
I don't know.
Some of my retired buddies sit in their recliners, watch the games, and bet all certain things. I don't know if you can do that.
I don't know.
I have no interest in betting. I never have. I just
Yeah.
that kind of
Yeah.
thing.
Well, you're a Bills fan, so
No, you can bet for them to lose.
yeah, you can bet against them, right?
Yeah, you can bet a ton
Yeah.
of different things. What players, how many points they score, the over/under.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I just don't care. And if I don't care, then I don't care to bet.
Yeah. Right.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Thank you for being here. All right. This really is interesting. The whole the Kansas City Chiefs kicker, Harrison Butker, who spoke at Benedictine College. Now, he considers himself a very conservative Catholic, and that's a very conservative small school, private school. So he's talking to Catholics.
Yeah.
And this is the part because I had not, and this controversy is a few days old, I had not read this till late yesterday. Actually read the transcript. When it blew up yesterday, I said, okay. And then I purposely said, I'm not going to read it until I go through all the criticism that I see. And the most criticism that I saw was his take about women was incredibly misogynist. All right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, we know misogyny. We've dealt with misogyny. We understand the radical transgender movement and the misogyny of, for example, men defining what a woman is.
Yeah. We also know how chicks think.
Yes, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And so we know what misogyny is. We know that threatening women swimmers
Mm-hmm.
and telling them you're going to destroy their life and bullying them so men can compete against you and they get to define you. We understand the misogyny there. So let's actually read the section of his address that was viewed as completely and totally misogynist.
Yeah.
Hatred of women. Are you ready?
All right.
And women particularly. I want you to listen to this.
Yeah.
For the ladies present today, congratulations on an amazing accomplishment. You should be proud of all that you have achieved to this point in your young lives. I want to speak directly to you because I think it is you, the women, who have had the most diabolical lies told to you. How many of you sitting here now are about to cross the stage and are thinking about all the promotions and titles you are going to get in your career. Some of you may go on to lead successful careers in the world, but I would venture to guess a majority of you are most excited about your marriage and the children you will bring into the world. I can tell you that my beautiful wife, Isabel, would be the first to say that her life truly started when she began living her vocation as a wife and as a mother. I'm on this stage today to be able to be the man I am because I have a wife who leans into her vocation. I'm beyond blessed with the many talents God has given me, but it cannot be overstated that all of my success is made possible because a girl I met in band class back in middle school would convert to the faith, become my wife, and embrace one of the most important titles of all, homemaker. Applause, by the way. Applause happened at that point.
Mm-hmm.
She's a primary educator to our children. She's the one who ensures I never let football or my business become a distraction from that of a husband and a father. She's the person that knows me best at my core. And it is through our marriage that, Lord willing, we will both obtain salvation. I say all of this to you because I have seen it firsthand how much happier someone can be when they disregard the outside noise and move closer and closer to God's will in their life. Isabel's dream of having a career might not have come true, but if you ask her today if she has any regrets on her decision, she would laugh out loud and without hesitation say, heck no. That is what absolutely freaked out the left yesterday.
But anti-Semitism is fine.
But he's not anti-anything there.
Pro-family. Pro-family. By the way, it is the toughest job. It's 24/7, and it doesn't stop when your kids are 18. It is an ongoing daily. If you're a stay-at-home mom, it is constant. It is it's everything. It's the entire operation of the home.
I would say if you're looking at the problems out there, and he probably would agree with this, that the sacrifice that women make, to be in the home at times is not fully appreciated by the men that they marry. Not in all circumstances, but in some, that's part of the problem. Because as you just said there, it is the hardest job. He's not telling anybody, don't go into business.
Right.
He's simply saying in Catholicism, the highest responsibility and joy is to produce new human beings
and care for them. Educate them. If you're talking about...
And that the woman has a special, unique role in there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know something, do you think? Because think about this with the whole, we really didn't get to talk about this, but you saw the, I don't even know, this goes back maybe 10 days ago. There was a picture of the guy who gave birth, and he's laying in a hospital bed with the new baby as if he had gone through labor.
Right.
And, of course, it was a surrogate.
Right.
And, I mean, you talk about, sex and gender appropriation.
Right.
That you're sacrificing the same thing. It's almost as if the left is mocking the fact of the uniqueness of the female sex giving birth. That somehow...
they do that. Yeah, they mock all the time.
That somehow that has to be mocked in a way instead of celebrated.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now, he is a conservative Catholic talking to conservative Catholics. But I would dare say that most women would hear that and say, well, there's nothing wrong.
Right.
He's not telling you you have to be. He's saying, as a Catholic, these are the values that we have, talking to other Catholics. He's not telling the view that they need to abide by his philosophy.
He's also talking to these individuals, and directly to, in this moment, to the women who now have a higher education, and basically spelling out that it isn't wrong if that's your choice to have a family, then that is okay, because it's one of the most important things you can do in terms of life in general, in terms of your faith, is to have a family and honestly be in charge of that household. There's no way around that being a fact. But the left has mocked it for a long, long time. They want to celebrate other things, and they won't celebrate this. The DEI executive for the NFL. Essentially, this doesn't jive with our beliefs. Oh, really? So DEI isn't about inclusion? You can't include someone who has a strong faith in what they believe? You're saying they don't belong. I thought this was DEI, the I being inclusion. It's not. You decided you're going to cut them out from the herd because DEI has nothing to do with being inclusive. It is exclusive, and if you don't agree with the way we think, we're going to cut you out, we're going to separate you, and we're going to come after you, we're going to mock you.
Well, the move is from the left, as you've seen at move.org, thousands of people signing that Kansas City needs to get rid of him.
Yeah.
But it was a long speech, but that was the part, the misogyny part of it, that he spoke in the most detail that got the most criticism. By the way, that's not misogyny, what he's saying here.
Mm-hmm.
That is not, he's not talking about hating women.
Mm-hmm.
He's actually, in a way, talking about how the woman that he married is the one that has, given him the most happiness.
And has made sacrifice along the way.
Right, that she's made terrible sacrifices along the way and kept him in line.
Yeah.
In fact, he talks as if, she is the one that keeps the family together. It's almost the opposite of misogyny.
Well, no, it was actually, for me, I saw it as a moment of empowerment, saying, if you choose to go down this road, you need to know how important that role is. If you choose that is going to be your role in life, right, you need to understand that that's okay. And that's a good thing. And the left loses their ever-loving mind.
Yeah.
As if this is being forced on them, as if this is being forced on anybody. It wasn't being forced on anybody in that room. But the left can't have any of it. Well, get back to your anti-Semitism. Sorry to distract you from your hatred.
Let's stop. Look, we got to stop hating Jews for a couple of minutes and hit this guy who is saying, "Oh, by the way, being a mother, that's okay."
Right.
In fact, there's great satisfaction.
Right.
You might find there's more satisfaction in that than going after career goals.
Right.
There's nothing radical about that at all. I mean,
not at all.
There's nothing There's no misogyny
well,
there.
I want to see if it was always a thing with female anchors on TV shows. If they went on maternity leave and they would come back, congratulations. How are you doing? The family's doing okay. They would show pictures along the way. Can you do that anymore? Can you do that anymore if one of the female anchors on the Today Show takes a maternity leave? Can you tell the audience where she's gone? Or are you afraid of that? Is that bigotry? it's to be celebrated. It always has been by our society. And you can choose to have children or not. That's up to you.
I'm amazed Whoopi Goldberg said, well, I mean, I agree with all of it, but it's fine. She was like, from what I read, it was like, she was like, well, come on, it's not that radical. Well, people have to understand. I don't think people understand Catholicism. You're not supposed to have premarital sex.
Mm-hmm. Right.
If you practice, and then he went after Biden, too, and they were the controversial comments on Biden. He's at an anti-abortion rally doing the sign of the cross. So now God is pro-abortion?
Right.
And the fact that he called that out and said that's hypocrisy, and he talked about Catholics that don't live. He talked about the church. He talked about priests.
Mm-hmm.
There's been a lot of, since all the pre-sexual scandals,
mm-hmm.
there's been a lot of people inside the Catholic Church that are Catholics that are criticizing the people in the faith all the time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of introspection going on inside that faith right now,
mm-hmm.
which is a good thing.
Always.
And so, but to sit there, like I said, the number one thing was he's a misogynist. Just wait till you read what he said about women. Well, I just read you the entire thing he said about women in this speech.
Right.
There's no misogyny in that at all.
Right.
None. Simply saying you have choices in popular culture is telling you that being a mother is a bad choice.
Right.
I'm telling you it's the best choice.
Right. How dare you?
866-90 Red Eye.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. So I wonder if anybody's going to be talking about this by the end of the week, even. Because when you go through the speech, like I said, the misogyny part of it is the allegation for the Kansas City kicker was the most brutal criticism that I saw on it. And I just read the entire thing. There's nothing to do with misogyny. You want misogyny? You look at the anti-Semitism that ignores the brutal rape murders of women in Israel.
Yeah.
If you want misogyny, look at the radical transgender movement and their treatment of women and having men define the definition of women. That's misogyny.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America and around the world, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning.
Hello.
All right, I'm looking here at this new poll. Republicans want, who do Republicans most favor to be the vice president for Donald Trump?
Lynn Cheney.
No.
No. Okay.
Incorrect. You are incorrect, sir.
Mm-hmm.
Ron DeSantis.
What? Really?
29% of all votes.
All right.
Let's get the thing. Here we go. DeSantis takes 29% of the vote. Nikki Haley, 12%.
Mm.
Now, this is a name I didn't expect to be on there.
Lynn Cheney?
No, she's not on there. Greg Abbott,
Oh,
12%.
okay.
Governor of Texas.
Okay.
Ramaswamy, 11%.
Hmm.
Carson and Scott, both at 10%.
Hmm.
Tulsi gets 9% of the analysis. Or said the analysis. So there you go.
Okay.
It's not going to be DeSantis.
I suspect it will not be.
No, we have nothing inside, folks. We have nothing inside the campaign. We don't.
We don't know what's going to happen. We've got no. Look, we are clearly the most influential talk show of all time. Yes, we know that. Stop telling us that. We already know that. But we don't have insiders in every corner of every operation.
I'm sorry.
Or maybe we do. Based on those who showed up at the courthouse this week, I did find it interesting when Ramaswamy, the video clip of when Ramaswamy was speaking, and he did a great job, I thought. In the background, Byron Donalds is back there, and I thought, oh, they're both up there vying for that VP slot. And that was part of it, but also I think everybody in the GOP, actually everybody outside the GOP knows what a sham of a case this is as it continues to implode every day and imploding even further yesterday. You look at then the list, the long list, and the wish list is always there, right? The dream ticket is always there. So for DeSantis to be number one on that list, not a surprise.
No, not at all. No.
You and I have gone through, I don't know how many election seasons now where that dream ticket thing comes about, over and over again. And we know why. I mean, there's a reason behind it here. It has to do with the job that Governor DeSantis is doing in Florida. The fact that many people would like to see him one day be the president. We know why. There's a real reason behind it. The question is, I think DeSantis doing some campaigning for Trump wasn't a complete shock, because if he's going to be, the governor, if he's going to be an active member of the GOP in any way, then certainly if he believes that Trump has a very good chance of winning, then you want that history of cooperation there. And then all the back and forth in the primary season typically fall away by the time we get to convention. And if they don't by the time convention, then it will turn out like it did in 2016, where Ted Cruz is vote your conscience at convention, and then right before the election day itself, he's working the phones for Trump. And so all of these things are, not a surprise. This is typically how it goes down. The question is, what does the campaign see? Who does the campaign see as the biggest asset? Where do you believe you need to gain? You and I still can't wrap our heads around Kamala Harris as the VP pick. There's no practical reason for that at all. You look at what has happened in the past when George W. Bush asked Cheney. You're looking for that foreign relations experience. And by the way, that was also the story behind Obama picking Biden as his VP, which is laughable for that reason, for many reasons, but also that reason. So I don't know what the Trump campaign is looking at right now. It has to be viability. It should be also long-term viability for the party, but not always. When you look at George W. Bush and his pick for, his Cheney pick, was that about the long-term viability of Cheney one day becoming president?
No.
Not really.
No.
You know?
That was to get somebody in there again. Same thing, same reason Obama picked Biden.
Yeah,
because of his foreign policy experience.
Which is laughable.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. And so I don't know. Right now, it's imperative that Trump wins. And so there could be other reasons that outweigh the long-term viability of that person and whether or not they would become president or run for president in 2028 if Trump were to win. So, there's so many considerations here. I don't know. I think it's wide open right now. When I hear the name Nikki Haley, it's like, okay, the primary season wasn't the greatest for her in terms of her rebranding, which kind of came really based on how she ran her campaign during the primary. But again, all is forgotten by the time you get to convention. So, we'll see. Are they seeing internals that show Nikki Haley would be necessary if they're going to gain enough with independents? I don't know. I like Byron Donalds.
Okay, here it is.
Mm-hmm.
They asked the question two ways. Your top choice for Trump's VP and your second choice.
Yeah.
The reason they gave Ron DeSantis 29 is he won both of those. The top choice and the second choice was DeSantis. The let me see if you look at it. Let me see. Do they have it overall? Yeah. Okay. There's where you get the 29%. So it was Ron DeSantis was on top, first and second choice. Nikki Haley second place, but way back at roughly was 11%, 12%. Same with Greg Abbott. He was there, which is interesting because nobody has mentioned Greg Abbott. No one. Have you heard Greg Abbott mentioned before this?
This is the first time.
Ramaswamy then Ben Carson, Tim Scott, Tulsi, Tucker, Sarah Huckabee Sanders, Marco Rubio, Kristi Noem, Mike Pompeo, Carrie Lake, Mike Flynn, Marsha Blackburn, Byron Donalds, Doug Burgum, J.D. Vance, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Elise Stefanik, Lee Zeldin. Way down there. So all of them there. I don't know how much a VP candidate matters with Trump.
Yeah, there's that.
I just don't think it matters right now, as long as it's... Because when you look at Republicans, for the most part, even if you take, and Nikki Haley is not going to be it, but even if you take Nikki Haley, everybody roughly agrees on 70% to 80% of everything.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Nikki Haley's not going to get it because of her attacks on Trump, but anybody else in there, if it was... It's not going to be DeSantis, so we'll just throw that out. And unless DeSantis has changed his mind, and I don't think he has. But then again, things have changed so much when you think about it. Republicans were hesitant because of all the court cases against Trump. Now you can't keep Republicans from showing up at the courthouse to make sure that they get their 2 cents in defending Trump and the rule of law.
That's what I would wonder about, because I'll say 99% sure DeSantis would say no. And that 1% is that asterisk of, is there something that could have changed, especially with the demonstration of the clear lawfare that's going on right now, where DeSantis says, look, it's important that we all fight this fight. And it's important that we do this, and I want to be a part of that. I don't know. I suspect the answer is still no. But again, but also to your point, I don't know who Trump actually needs. I don't know who he needs right now. In the primary season, you could look at the numbers and say, he needs somebody who could pull in independents. That was early on. You could make that case. I think everything right now working for him is really towers over any of the VP picks that might politically appeal to independents or certain people in any of the swing states where they're neck and neck. Again, as who was it? Britt Hume pointed out the other day, if he just gets a couple of those swing states right now, and keep in mind, in 4 of those, he's got a pretty heavy lead. If he wins just a couple of those, he wins. But I don't know who the person would be that brings any considerable amount more to the campaign. So
I don't think it's not going to be. I mean, even though Ramaswamy's in the top 4, it's not going to be Ramaswamy.
I don't think so.
Okay.
A cabinet position, maybe. I don't know. For him, I don't know.
Oh yeah, cabinet. Greg Abbott, really interesting choice. Somebody should ask Abbott, would you be interested? Because I haven't even heard anybody ask him that question. And I don't know if Greg Abbott would want to be vice president.
Yeah, I don't know. I
just don't know.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's probably, 99% sure not going to be DeSantis, not going to be Nikki Haley, not going to be Greg Abbott, not going to be Ramaswamy. And then you get down to Ben Carson and Tim Scott. It's not going to be Tulsi Gabbard. It's not going to be Tucker Carlson. So I look at 2 names there that stick out at me.
Mm-hmm.
That and Ben Carson, former housing secretary, but I don't see him as it. I look and I see the 2 names that stick out at me that my gut says, okay, Tim Scott, Sarah Huckabee Sanders.
Yeah.
It's not going to be Marco Rubio, not going to be Kristi Noem. You've got Pompeo there. I heard he's willing to be Secretary of State again. It's not going to be Carrie Lake, not going to be Mike Flynn, not going to be Marsha Blackburn. Doug Burgum, possibility. Byron Donalds, I like him. And I can see Byron Donalds, becoming a senator. I can see him someday running for president.
Yeah. Sure.
Burgum, he was out there. I mean, he was the first one at the court the other day, was he not?
Mm-hmm.
I believe. Mm. It's not going to be Marjorie Taylor Greene.
No.
Interesting. I mean, the person last on the list is the most interesting.
Yeah.
Lee Zeldin. And I say that because of what he did in the governor's race against Cuomo last time.
Yeah.
How close he came, the performance that he had to get that many votes in such a liberal state.
That was very impressive.
And I look at that as saying, okay, and I've seen him debate. I think you and I played an audio cut from him in the last couple of weeks. He's, all over. He's in the media. Here's the thing. I am so old, I'm old enough to remember where you never picked a member of the House. You could pick a member of the Senate.
Yeah, right, yeah.
And so that's a bias that I have that I don't think exists anymore.
Right. Yeah.
By the way, it's not a bias that I have. It's a bias that I recognize. I want to make that clear.
Yeah, right, yeah.
It's a bias that I recognize and not a bias that I actually have. that it's a bias that I've recognized out there. So I don't know. Like I said, it would be interesting, but it just sits at me. And I look at Tim Scott and Sarah Huckabee Sanders, and I look and I go, Tim Scott. My gut tells me the odds are it will be Tim Scott. I could be wrong, which is why I don't predict. I don't know why.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, least offensive, nice guy, very, very, very positive things. He ran a very positive campaign, promoting America, everything else. Don't know if that's what – I don't think he polled well because that's not what the Republicans are looking for president, but as vice president, it might be perfect to catapult him.
Could be. Yeah, could be.
866-90 Red Eye.
Brought to you by Hot Shot Secret.
Hi, I'm Jen Loomis, a transport safety expert at J.J. Keller, and I'm here to share a tip on speed and space management. Due to safety concerns, many motor carriers have policies that limit or prohibit the use of cruise control. If your motor carrier does allow you to use cruise control, you should only use it in good driving conditions during daylight hours and on roads that have light traffic, few curves or hills, and a consistent speed limit. Never use cruise control when operating in adverse driving conditions, including wet, icy, or slippery roads, during rush hour in heavy traffic or on congested highways, at night, or when you're tired or fatigued. During all of these driving scenarios, you want to be controlling and adjusting your speed as you drive instead of having to suddenly brake if you encounter an obstacle. In the case of a slippery road surface, you want to be able to slow your vehicle by not accelerating instead of using the brakes whenever possible. This tip was brought to you by J.J. Keller and Associates. Visit us at jjkeller.com.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Trump did say in February, though, you're not going to be surprised who I pick. So, and at that time, he had talked Noam and Scott. And Noam is, I don't believe, she's on the list, but way down. And the dog thing sort of disqualified her.
Yeah.
She's not going to be. And so he mentioned both of them and Scott. That's not why I mentioned Scott. I just see him. I don't know what it is. I just see him, and he's different from Trump, very positive sounding. You know, he ran a very patriotic, positive campaign.
Sure. Yeah.
In a time when that might not be what people want to hear, but it fits perfect for a vice presidential candidate. But we'll see. For Biden, though, it's Harris because that's the best that the Democrats can do.
About to trigger somebody right now. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley on Red Eye Radio.
And he's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Download our Red Eye Radio app today, and you can listen when and where you want if you can't listen live overnight. I wasn't joking when I was saying that, you know, for Biden's vice presidential candidate, it's going to be Kamala Harris. You don't even hear the Democrats saying anymore, we need somebody better behind Biden.
No.
You haven't heard them say it.
They're saying we need somebody other than Biden.
Yeah, but you don't hear them saying Harris because she is the best qualified candidate that the Democrats have.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that in a complimentary way.
No.
When Newsom bombed in the polls, number one, Newsom is not going to tie his wagon to Biden. But when you see that he polled worse than Kamala Harris in every poll that we saw that was taken, he polled the worst. And then he was gone. And I do believe that the debate with DeSantis last November hurt him big time. He was smoked in that debate. And you and I ask the question all the time that you understand that you represent the state of California. All you have to say is, do you wish to be California? And the majority of the nation will say no.
Right. Yeah.
That's the reality.
Right.
And so after Newsom was out, as we have stated, who is there? Who could replace Harris? Who?
I got nothing.
A Buttigieg? I'm throwing out I'm throwing out names. Buttigieg, AOC, Schumer.
Yeah.
Nancy Pelosi. Who is the new wait a minute. Dan Goldman. By the way, the best. How could I forget to talk about this? This is the best thing ever.
Is it?
Yes. Earlier in the week, when Goldman was doing the interview and saying how he was counseling and giving advice, legal advice to Michael Cohen.
Right.
And you and I said at the time, well, this is going to end in disaster. Man.
Yeah. Well, every time Goldman opens his mouth, it works for the GOP.
I know. It's like
every single time.
And did you notice it was after Goldman said that he had advised Michael Cohen that Republicans started showing up at the trial.
Right.
They went, oh, Goldman's giving him advice? This guy has been, in trying to help Biden, one of the worst enemies of Biden.
Yeah.
Every time he opens his mouth, he sticks his foot in it. And he's out there proudly proclaiming, because when we covered it, we said, oh, so one of the lead pit bulls for the Democrats is advising one of the biggest defenders of Biden and not getting to the truth on Joe Biden, running interference for him, is Dan Goldman. Well, there's the politics right there. Why is Dan Goldman involved in counseling a witness for the prosecution against Trump?
Right.
In a criminal case.
Right.
Well, we see what happened.
How'd that work out for Cohen? Oh, my gosh. How'd it work out for Goldman?
But and when I do this, because people, you're just a partisan. They're good Democrats. Tell me who was a better Democrat than Kamala Harris to be vice president.
Tell me who the Democrats are promoting as the up and coming right now.
That's the thing.
They in 2020. Remember then, Governor Cuomo. He's ready to go in the event that he needs to just slide in and become the nominee.
Oh, my God.
He was going to be anointed.
That blew up.
Oh, my gosh. And so who's it going to be? Who would it be? Who's the future of their party? Who is the future of their party? Tell me the people that are the future of their party.
I don't know.
We can give you a list. In fact, we went down that list. I mean, I don't know about Nikki Haley. Not sure about, so far, not sure about Tulsi Gabbard, only because we haven't heard a lot in that regard from Tulsi Gabbard.
Well, all I have to say is DeSantis.
Mm-hmm. We have a whole list.
DeSantis is definitely, for Republicans, did you see, on climate change? Now for energy sources, they signed it yesterday. I think he signed it yesterday. It was passed by the legislature, and he's going to sign it.
Mm-hmm.
They're not taking climate change into consideration for energy sources now.
Right.
No state has done that.
Right.
Not even the state of Texas to that extent.
Mm. Yeah. Byron Donalds, Tim Scott.
Tim Scott.
Byron
Donalds.
there is a list of individuals. Where's that list on the left? Where's that list for the Democrats? Because it's not Newsom.
Well,
and the reason is, and proof of that is that you can see the polls. Newsom's polling worse than Kamala Harris.
I could say Governor Burgum. I could say even from the more moderate left, more anti-Trumpers in the future, it could. And I'm not talking in even in 2028, but in the future. And again, I don't agree with a lot of what he says, but a Hogan from Maryland.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you could say Nikki Haley because she gets a significant portion of Democrat votes.
Well,
I don't see her.
'Cause we're talking about viability.
I'm talking about viability.
Right. Not the dream list, not the wish list.
Not my dream list or your dream list or wish list.
No. But where's that viability list of viable candidates for the future in the Democratic Party?
It's not there.
It doesn't exist.
But you know why it doesn't exist? It doesn't. And this is the thing. You and I get so frustrated because nobody in the media really talks the issues anymore. We throw out, you and I talked about the whole Oxford debate from a couple of weeks ago where the guy from Mumford and Sons was debating Nancy Pelosi.
Yeah.
And they were talking populism. Is populism going to end democracy? And I'm like, well, you got to explain to me what today's populism is right now. What it is. What are the issues that it represents?
Mm-hmm.
Because some of what, Nancy, she got smoked, but some of the stuff he said, the big problems that, the populism attacks are corporations, big pharma. Well, don't be a Democrat. If populism is being a Democrat, then I have no interest in it.
Right.
But it's more than that, though. It is, but populism is not a political ideology. Populism, to me, is a lot like populism is, because even the definition is populism is the average person's reaction to the elite.
Mm.
Well, that really isn't talking about politics. So to me, we've always been issue people. Not that it wasn't an interesting debate, but I can guarantee you people watching that debate went, well, what is populism?
Yeah.
If you ask the majority of American people what's populism, stuff that's popular, which, by the way, you can make that argument that that's partially correct.
Well, yeah, partially correct. But the question is what's popular the right thing?
Well, no, but I can give you an example. Don't touch Social Security at all. No changes.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That's a populist viewpoint right now.
Right.
Is that possible?
Mm-hmm.
No.
No.
It's not possible.
No.
It's a populist opinion, and that's because a lot of regular people hold that viewpoint because they view that the elite have destroyed Social Security and they don't want their benefits touched.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact is it needs funding. It has to be changed somehow. Someone has to pay for the benefits that cannot be paid for and will not be able to be paid for in 10 years.
Right. Yeah.
Because the money won't be there. So you have to do something to it. And you and I have talked about that. I mean, part of the populist thing is, and both sides are on that one, don't anybody touch Social Security. Don't even talk about any type of cuts. Don't talk about any type of other programs. Don't talk about any raising of, the FICA tax. You can talk about taxing the rich. Taxing the rich is a good one. Yeah, because that's also a populist viewpoint. The rich need to pay more of it, and the rich are ripping you off. Which, again, that's where populism can head into Bernie Sanders land. Blame the billionaires for your problems today.
Right. Yeah, it's all their fault. Yeah, it's, the spectrum isn't a true spectrum anymore. If you think about it, the political spectrum on the left is void of viable candidates.
They're void of viable candidates because there's a huge void in viable issues that the Democrats represent. It's hard to have somebody, who is the new person that's why Newsom got smoked.
Yeah.
Think about that. Any other time, in you and I covering politics that I've done now, I've been at talk shows since 89, but I've been covering politics and was head of, news department and stuff like that before I actually got into talk radio. So I've been covering politics for over 40 years. And I have never seen such a radical party on the issues. There is no candidate because they're all radicals. Anybody who is a viable candidate on a national level for the Democrats is a radical. And those who are not are ejected.
Yeah.
They're got Tulsi Gabbard. What's his name? Joe Manchin. You take any positions that are logical on the right and you're gone. Look at the problem Biden has. Good God. Supporting Israel is not a controversial opinion for 80% of Americans.
Right. No.
Joe Biden can't make up his mind.
No.
Majority of Americans don't practice identity politics. The Democratic Party does. They judge people by groups and not individuals. The average American, the vast majority of Americans, don't do that. That's part of the problem. You and I have always said it. Forget the labels. Get down to where they stand on the issues. And on the issues, the Democrats don't have any rising stars because they're all nuts.
Their agenda is imploding.
Yeah.
It used to be, the search would be, who can sell the agenda the best? Who can make our agenda, our radical agenda, more palatable? That's what they thought they had found with Obama. And they thought, because they found that okay, then we've won it. We've won the entire thing for the rest of time. They really believed that. They didn't. Because the radical agenda is going to rear its ugly head. It doesn't matter how you try and sell it or who's selling it. Very few people are buying it anymore.
866-90-RED-EYE.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90-RED-EYE on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's our Carly, and I'm Gary McNamara. Coming up on the top of the hour. Here we go again. America's power grid could buckle under sweltering summer heat. Watchdog warns. We'll get to that story. And you saw that the NIH admitted that taxpayers funded gain-of-function research in Wuhan.
Yeah, right.
So, duh.
Yeah.
We'll get to that and more some of that congressional testimony. What was the other thing I wanted to make sure I get to? There's one other thing. This it comes from the left. It was Washington Monthly, and it was about how the Biden campaign wants to debate because they know they're that far behind.
Yeah,
and they've got to do something. But there was one part of it where I just went, okay. Even the writer here is being delusional because things are really good for Biden right now.
Yeah.
Inflation is down.
Right.
Inflation is not down. The inflation rate is down. Inflation is not down. I think it was a News Nation that was doing a whole bunch of things on just, how high. Like food is up, 24% overall. And you saw car repairs are up since before the pandemic, 46% more expensive car repairs.
Yep.
Just amazing. And car insurance through the roof. We'll get to that more on the way.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One.